I'm just kidding. I just got that. Oh, it's the KW Realty. And it is the number 4, capital K, capital W, wireless. You're welcome. I need to make some more copies. That'd be nice. I only made 15.
That's what I made last time. We had used every single copy plus we used it extra.
We need extra? Good. We should have 33.
No, that's true.
How's everybody doing today? Good? You guys are pretty quiet. Did you get any calls from anybody this weekend?
No,
Me neither.
quiet.
You guys don't need us anymore or what? Well, you always still need us. Was it quiet for you this weekend? Yeah? No open houses? Yeah.
One question from this weekend, like maybe you guys know the answer. If you look at a house that's like redone, that's still under 35% more than it was 4 years ago. Is there a way to find out what the future property taxes might look like?
It's gonna go off. They're gonna look at what the sold price was and,
But it can only increase
Right.
so much.
yeah.
Per year, right? Like 3% increase.
Something like that, but like I don't know, I would not get into tax code. It's not it's property tax code, you're not property tax.
If you give them a certain number and then it's higher than that, guess who they're gonna be pissed at?
Mhm.
Totally.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So, but
yeah,
thanks.
still. I would-
You're asking for yourself?
Yeah.
Sorry, Brian. No,
Yeah, you can get into the tax code and figure it out. Okay. That's,
it's just, I mean, you know, it's gonna go up for sure, right? Because they always look at what it's sold for.
Yeah.
Even when you get your house appraised, they reevaluate it,
Yeah.
right? And then it's gonna go up.
It's just completely refinished cosmetics. But yeah, like really nice to know. Yeah, 35% over what they got it for just over a year ago.
okay, let's get started.
Yeah.
So, for those of you who sent me their completed contracts, thank you. For those of you who haven't, please do. 'Cause that's the one I forgot, okay? And then those who have done it, let's carve out a few minutes after class, just go real fast. Boom, boom.
Completed contract, like.
Oh, you weren't here. Yeah.
We did a, everybody filled out an agreement. Well, not everybody, but we had the classes are filling out the agreement, so
Learning how to write an offer.
learning how to write the offer. So we kind of put together a scenario,
Okay.
and then y'all hunted and pecked and found the answers to the question.
It took longer than we thought it was gonna.
Yeah.
Why?
Lots
No.
of questions.
It's not like-
Well, it's good. You guys all took your time doing it, which is important. But let's finish it up and give me copies so I can get feedback on it. Okay, so let's move on. That offer was accepted. Yay!
Yay!
You guys had a pending sale. So next steps would be we're gonna send copies. So you're required by law to send signed copies of everything that your client signed to them within a reasonable amount of time. And that, I don't know what that reasonable amount of time is, so what's reasonable, but pretty quick. So like if they sign something today, tomorrow's a business day, I think tomorrow's a reasonable amount of time to make sure your clients receive signed copies of it. So make sure DocuSign takes care of that for you. So if it's one of the beauties of DocuSign is when they sign it, they get a copy of what they signed, which is great. But let's say you're representing the buyer like you were in this case and you sent a copy of the offer to the seller and the seller's accepted it. Now you received the signed copy. You need to make sure your client gets a copy of all that paperwork as well, okay? So the other people who need to receive it, the escrow company, okay? Because they need to open escrow and your client's going to deposit $100. So you want to get that over to them ASAP, but the most important person probably is going to be the lender, because the lender needs to get working on it, especially if you put like a tight closing, like if you've done 30 days or 28 days or 4 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever that period is, it's really tight. One day it could be, let's just look at it this way. So in a 4-week closing, which would be 28 days, there are 20 business days. And if you take away one of those business days, you've eliminated 120 of it. That's 5% of the amount of time the lender has to work on it. So get that over to them ASAP, make sure everything goes smoothly. Make sure the listing agent obviously has copies of everything. And then, included in your packet is a sample of the transaction timeline. And these are great. So you're gonna wanna go through and calculate, the timelines, so your clients have a good understanding, especially when you're representing a buyer, of when their contingencies come up to an end. There's no excuse in the world, and I see it happen about once a month, not with agents in our office, but with agents out of our office, where buyer's agents miss their home inspection contingencies. Like, it just lapses without having a deal negotiated. And it's terrible, right? So, in fact, I got a phone call from one of our agents today about an agent at another company who's been around the block. He should know better. I know his name, I've dealt with him before. He missed it. I mean, he sent over his timeline, his repair agreement on the very last day, and then it expired, and he didn't know anything about it, and he's like, uh-oh. So, it's a horrible feeling.
What does that mean if it expired? They sent one over.
That means that contingency is ended and your clients are purchasing the property in as-is condition. So if they wanted to terminate because there's a big old hole in the roof, or because of financial, too late, right? Now, there are other contingencies we might be able to utilize to get your client out of the sale. They just aren't that good, and it starts smelling really fishy when you miss the inspection timeline, the inspection period ending, and then you try to pull some other contingency out. It looks really bad, and you get the client's earnest money in jeopardy. So remember, you're always protecting and promoting your client's interests, right? So protecting their earnest money is a big deal. Most of you, at least when I got started, most of my clients were first-time buyers, and that earnest money was a big portion of their net worth, right? That $5,000, $10,000 that they were using towards their earnest money was a lot of the money they had, right? That if you're thinking about like people buying homes, 3% down, 5% down, and earnest money being 1% to 2%, that's like that could be like almost half of their net worth, right? That $10,000 could be half of their 30 grand that they have when they put down on the house. So super important that you're protecting their earnest money. Know your timelines. All right.
And then on that note, though, on that first section, one of the things that when I was a transaction coordinator that I found was a way to shorten my time when I'm dealing with and making sure that I had everything, having templated emails ready to go, right? Write out what you want to say to the lender, write out what you want to say to the buyer and the escrow officer and the agent on the other side. And that way you don't have to rethink that every time, or you don't get in a hurry and send out something short, right? So have a templated email ready to go, save them somewhere, wherever it makes most sense for you. And then you can copy and paste, edit the names, the information, and then you want to include the timeline as well. Everybody loves to get a copy of what your timeline, and this doesn't have to be the one that you use. This is just like a suggestion, right? Something to go off of. We'll upload all of these documents into the Slack channel after the class. So you guys can download them. The timeline is actually an Excel file, and the opportunity checklist that we'll talk about later are also Excel files. This is the only one that is a PDF uploaded.
So as I'm reviewing, I'm just cruising through this document here. So you'll only probably fill in the spots that are relevant to your sale. So if there's no home warranty, then just you probably delete that part of the home warranty. And you wouldn't, if you're representing the buyer, you probably won't put the seller's information in there. You know? But the escrow is super important. That's really important because and just assume that even if this is the second, third home they bought, that they have no idea what's next in the process, right? So you really need to be explaining, always be setting the expectation, right? Always let them understand what's happening moving forward, so they're not being surprised. So I always, if I'm dealing with somebody I haven't dealt with before, I make sure that they really understand what that inspection contingency is about. Like I'll reference contingencies of sticks. Like you have this stick and you're threatening to use it, which is you're terminating the transaction, right? Your inspection contingency is one of the biggest sticks you have to negotiate changes in the deal. So make sure that your clients understand the relevancy of it, like that they understand how important that timeline is. Okay, next part. we've done that, right? So we've
Yeah.
alerted everybody, we've sent
Does anyone
everybody.
have any questions about the transaction timeline, that first section, number 1? No, pretty clear, right?
Mhm.
Does anyone already have a template that they use for the timeline?
I would do it now, right? You guys have free time on hand now. It's a great time to get this stuff going. It may not be a forever thing, right? You may alter this document, you may edit it until you're done with real estate.
Yeah, it'll always change.
But it always changes, it'll be editable. I would like, if it were me, I would take this, which I think is super cool, like very easy to read, but I might brand it.
Oh, yeah.
I might brand it,
Mine
so.
is branded, I just leave it.
That's see. So branding's great. I would brand as many things as you can, right?
Yeah.
Right, so just never lose an opportunity to market.
I know something that could get that didn't have it on here again.
What?
Short sale negotiator,
Maybe,
maybe,
what's up?
I know.
I don't think so, I'm just.
I know. I'm hoping not.
Yeah. Okay, so, okay, you've entered your checklist dates as well. Now it's time to schedule your inspections.
I know, you're skipping over
Really?
a major
What
section
are you
here. Come on. This
Oh, you
is,
guys come in, I'm sorry.
yeah, come on, Kelly. See, he needs to go to training as well. Okay, checklist dates. So has everybody entered in their checklist into Command? Like created a checklist? I need to show you really fast where to go, what to do. These sheets that are back here, there's 2 different ones. Some of them have similar, we're getting them from, different places. You don't have to use everything that's in these. And yes, you can't read this. I can't read it, even with my bifocal contacts. But again, it's an Excel sheet that is going to be uploaded for you guys to grab off the Slack channel. So you can copy and paste. But as far as the checklist, get rid of this right here. You're going to go to your opportunities and you're going to go into just one of these. So like under contract. And when you're in here, come up to the top and edit stages. So checklists are what show up as you drag that person from escrow to inspections to appraisal, and see how the number changed. 06, 05. That means I haven't checked anything off in those sections. But up in edit stages, there's nothing in these. If you haven't put it in, there's nothing in it. These sheets have suggestions of what you can put in there. And part of that is, so like we just went pending, I'm dragging it from negotiating over to under contract. So then when I come in here, there's things that I'm gonna do, right? Call the buyer, congratulate them, they accepted your offer. I'm not gonna send that to the client as an update. We do wanna send the client an update with lots of things that we do, because remember when you met with them and you did your buyer presentation or your listing presentation, hopefully you have that checklist of everything a realtor does, right? So that they understand how hard we work for what we get paid. So you can check everything. Check that you sent the contract to the lender. Check that you sent the contract to escrow, right? And just work your way. You can add as many things as you want in here. This is all about maintaining and making sure that you are staying in check with everything you need to do on the transaction with the client throughout the entire opportunity of that person. So this is where you're going to do this. There's no dates or anything in here because this is where I'm setting it up. Okay, so once you set it up, and then now I'm going to go back to the contact. And when I come in here, so if I'm in escrow and I need to schedule some inspections, now I'm going to set due dates. So I'm going to go to my contract and I'm going to find out what's my deadline, right? So then I'm going to put in here, say the deadline is Monday next week. Then I'm going to put in by Friday, I better have that done, right? Or maybe you're going to have call to schedule, have that in a couple days, have another one, get inspection report back, right? And then respond with an addendum. Have a couple different ones. By checking that, and you can choose what time you want. Now it pops up here, but it also pops up in your task for to do. So if you're coming in every morning and checking your task, what do I have to do today? That's going to show up in there that you need to make sure that inspection is done by then. Or if you're, let's say we put that in there and now today I'm coming in, I'm checking my transactions this way. I can come in and go, oh, okay, 0-6, I've got stuff to do. What do I need to do? And, oh, call and schedule the inspection, get the inspection scheduled, check that off. Tomorrow morning, that client is going to get a nice email that says, here's all the things that were completed for you yesterday. Right? So automated, it's a daily update with your clients, and it's automated. So you don't have to do that every single day. And they're finding out that you are doing a lot of stuff that you told them that you would be doing.
Set up these systems now. Like, this is
Absolutely.
I've never seen this before.
You didn't see that? You want to see what the email looks like?
So I've been in a really, really high volume real estate business before, where there just isn't enough time in the day to do everything. And so we automate so many things. And keeping track of what you have to do, there's not enough room. So like, regardless of what your real estate goals are, removing things from your plate, automating things is super duper great way to make you a better realtor, to help you serve your clients. Because you're not spending gray matter about when you need to do this, it's being handled for you, or it's being reminded, there's a reminder that's already set up for you, that's already scheduled. Makes you super duper efficient, and you want to be efficient, right?
Yeah.
Don't spend time doing things that you can automate. Like, this is the way to go. This is awesome.
So you said it sends them a nice email that's,
Yep, I'm going to show it to you.
You can schedule it that says.
Yep. So right here,
but do we have to write that email or?
no, it's automated. So you come into, well, you click on, let me go back so I can show you. Where did you go to grade? Yep. So when you're in here and we come up to edit our stages. So this is when you're creating your checklist, right? You're going to grab the Excel sheet. You're going to copy it and paste on each, so you don't have to type it out every single time, right? And then when you finish doing your checklist for each stage, you have to do this under each stage, and you want to make sure that you're not clicking on one of your people, because if you do it on one of your opportunities that you have in there, you're only doing it on that opportunity, not for the overview. Okay. I've had people do that and they're like, I swear I put them in there. Well, they did under one person, not over everybody. So they had to redo it. So when you come in here, you got this little gear right here next to client updates. Click on the gear, and this is going to take you over into the settings, which you can get to it over here as well. If you're not on a team, you won't see this. You're going to scroll down, you're going to choose. It's based in LA time, so you choose what time do they want to get it. I'm doing 7:30 in the morning. Who's going to get, it's going to come from me as the owner. That would be you, right? The owner of the opportunity. And then who's going to get a copy of it? I want my client and co-client. So if there's a husband and a wife, they're both going to get it, because we all know only one is usually looking at stuff, right? And then you can also send a copy of the email to you if you want as well. This would be important, like if you have a transaction coordinator, you want to make sure that they're doing things on time and they're getting done. This is a good way to maintain that and make sure that it's happening. And then down here, it says default. It's said default for a long time. I'm really hoping they let us customize this at some point. But for now, this is what it looks like. It's base, it's simple. It's going to fill in your information at the top, whatever is in your marketing profile. Simple little email. We're checking things off the list. Here's a summary of tasks that were completed for. It's going to fill in the address. So make sure you have the property address in the opportunity. The picture is going to be this picture, you guys. That's one of the things that I'm hoping we can customize. And then it's just going to put every checklist item that you did, no matter how many you have. If there's one, it'll be one. If there's 10, there'll be 10. And then it has by your step, by your side at every step. It'll have your name, picture, and they must have put dates in here so they know when it's happening. And then the download my app. So it's basically, this is that email newsletter style template that they have in here. And that's it. Simple, quick email that looks like it's coming from you. And if they're already getting your monthly neighborhood nurtures, they're used to seeing that template from you, right? If they're getting your newsletters that you're creating, that Morgan creates for us, hopefully you have it in that same template. So that's your checklist. How cool is that? Automated systems. All right, now you can move on to the next one. You don't want to, you like that. We're done. All right, mic drop.
So really, like, again, I can't emphasize this enough. Do it now before you get super busy. Because when you get busy, you go back. You want to tweak it, not invented. So it's great to set this stuff up now.
You don't know what to do. Whenever, like, once you're in the transaction, you start realizing, oh, I should have one piece. Oh,
Yeah,
this
well,
is
use the
for that.
transaction timeline here as a starting point, right?
Yeah.
Good place to start.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, scheduling inspections. So you've already had a discussion with your clients at the time you wrote the offer about what inspections they want to do, right? In this last one, we were doing radon and sewer scope and general home inspection. But who are we gonna have do these things, right? This is important, right? So if you don't already have somebody established with you, have a relationship that you trust, a couple different ways you can go. You can ask around the office and see what people like. I know we leased space to a gentleman, I've never met him. He's been, Gordon, he's been off since COVID. I'm sure that if Dwight let them in here, he's very capable.
Yeah, his team is, his son Patrick,
Mhm.
and it's a family and they had some high-risk people, so that's why they weren't in the office, but they can do inspections like crazy, so very, very nice.
I use Eagle Eye because he's the only one that I've ever seen that brings a portable printer with him.
Nice.
Sends out the reports, everything already 3-hole punched and has a binder right there to put it in, depending on what type of property and everything.
Yeah.
Then recommendations, what steps to do around your place, when do you need to clean your gutters, when do you need to do this, when do you, all of that.
Right, so the risk management side of me says never, ever, 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 ever in like refer inspector. And if you do, refer 3.
Right.
I've never done it. I've
Anything
always
we refer,
Ever do what?
never
refer
refer
one.
inspector. Never,
Especially
ever,
one.
ever, 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 ever. That's risk management side of me.
So I shouldn't
Hold
refer?
on, never, ever, ever. Risk management side of me would say never do that. I've never done it. I've always had like one inspector that I've always worked with my entire life, my entire career, maybe 2. I've always had like one and have a backup. Yeah, so I'm only at one. I think our clients rely on us for some of this stuff. You're brand new though, so I didn't have anybody until like 6 years into the industry where I made relationships with people and I was like, wow, this guy's kind of a pain in the ass, I like him, I'll use him. But because he was really critical, other agents wouldn't work with him because he's so critical. I was always never afraid of having a critical home inspector. Some agents would be like, he's too critical in the house, I don't want him in front of my buyers. You're up to you, but I would rather, if I'm referring somebody, I want him to say everything bad about the house, be overly critical. Because if it ever comes back, I want him to have that.
Right.
On my side. You will be judged by that person. So again, I always say, I look bad enough, I don't need anybody else making you look worse. Make sure you have somebody good, all right? Make sure you try, if you're gonna hand out a name, like that's a big part of you, right? So make sure that you trust them. Otherwise, ask around, hand out 3 names, let them figure it out. I think you should try to keep control of the scheduling, because your schedule is important too.
Plus you also have to schedule with the other side, right? So it's easier that way.
The next thing I would want this all done on the first day, the first business day, the very next day, or the afternoon, whatever your offer is accepted, I would get on having the home inspection scheduled ASAP. When you're entering in, the next 2 weeks are the most high stress points of the whole transaction, because everybody's excited, they got a house, we sold our house. Now, as soon as you start talking about inspection, everybody's like, oh my God, what are we gonna find?
Yeah.
Everybody is.
Yeah.
So the sooner you get that inspection done, because there could be follow-up inspections that come out as a result of it. But the sooner you start negotiating repairs, the better. I mean, it's a weird market now. Repairs aren't as negotiated as much as they used to be, but I'm seeing an uptick in them. And so I would say, 3/4 of the properties that we're selling have a concession of some sort or have a repair. So as soon as you get that scheduled, better. Okay.
Remember too, when you refer your clients a list of 3 lenders, 3 inspectors. I have 3 inspectors for you. Here's a narrow spec, right? Here's, I don't even know, blue door, blue house, what it was up, and then another one. Who are they gonna go with?
First one.
They're gonna go with your first one. They're gonna know you're gonna name your best one first, right? So in that respect, if you like one in particular, I would just make them at the top of the list, but make sure you at least give 3. Because if something goes sideways, and that inspector missed something, or a totally, I don't know, totally jacked it up, they're coming after you. You recommended them to me. And now we missed this, and now it's gonna cost me 10K. Guess who it's gonna cost?
I think it's important that you choose an inspector that can do the 3 common inspections that so, or at least can facilitate. So the general home inspection, the radon metering, and the sewer scope. It's not, I hate having like 3 phone calls for 3 different appointments for that. It's just tedious. And so your time's valuable, your client's time's valuable. You don't want to annoy the seller by having 3 separate appointments for these appointments.
Plus
Like
you
3
gotta
separate for
drive
these
there.
inspections, plus you gotta drive there 3 times. You may be able to get like a 1-day code to set up the radar meter, but you should be in attendance to every inspection. You're mandated by law, by code of ethics, and I don't know if it's about work law, but code of ethics states you need to be present for all home inspections. And so be there. I think it's sloppy not to be there. I would never, ever want my clients to be left alone with their home inspector.
Oh, no.
Right, I wanna, even my critical guy, I wanna be able to add context from our real estate knowledge of the market to what's being said.
I had a home inspection, my sellers were home during a home inspection. And the contractor or the inspector was telling the buyers, I don't know why you're buying this house. It's so small. It's on a busy street. It's like, these were things that they already knew. Yes, what happened to that contract? Fell apart.
It'd say something like that.
Oh, yeah, I found out who it was and I went, she was. But right in front of my seller who was in the home, she didn't newborn in. So normally I never have that happen, but that particular one, they were there. Good thing.
So do you recommend sellers shouldn't be home?
Yes.
Yeah.
If I remember the seller.
Especially in the buyers,
Okay.
the buyers most likely are gonna be there for it. That's a good time for them to do measuring of furniture and stuff, so you don't have to go back again, right? It's all about having the right conversations with them as you're going through the transaction. Save your time on how many times they go back to the house. If now they want the in-laws to see it, schedule them to come at the end of the inspection period, so that it's not interrupting the inspector, but it's not another trip.
So you mentioned the 3 radar, sewer scope, and home.
The general.
Yeah, and then if you have an out-of-town property, you're gonna add in the well, the septic, instead of the,
And those are gonna be
Sewer.
special, those will be specials.
yeah.
Does the general home inspection cover mold?
Yes, they're looking for that. They're not gonna take.
They look for moisture.
They're not gonna, yeah, they're looking for signs of it. They're not gonna scrape it and have it sampled. That's a whole nother thing. I've done that very little in my career. Usually people see mold, it doesn't matter what brand it is.
Yes, but I think that lately I was explaining that mold is coming more often, because we are going through like, the houses are very insulated,
Mhm.
so moisture stays inside.
Yeah.
And the humidity goes up, so actually I have 3 transactions with. mold.
Yeah, super common.
They are-
And we're in a really moist area, so Wisconsin, so mold's super common. Yeah, other inspections you might run across would be a well flow test and water quality test. So what they do is they'll, there's 2 different schools of thought on how to generate, what the well flow is. Some people hook it up to like a faucet, and that takes into account plumbing. It dictates how much water comes out. A really good well guy will go right to the well, disconnect the well from the house and pump the water straight from the well itself. And you probably want a 4-hour flow test to really know. And that'll give you a
4 hour.
4 hours.
As
That's
opposed
a
to
lot.
what?
2 hours. So it's similar to 2, but they're measuring 2 things. They're measuring how much the well draws down in that period of time and how much water it pumps.
I just wanted to, when it takes sweeps to. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
like when this time sold house, they had like restarting the machine.
Yay.
That's great.
Certificate, so that's great. But yeah, I mean, because a lot of us don't have that,
Yeah.
Look foolish going, yeah, I want an oil tank sweep when they're.
But a house built in 1992, right? Yeah, the older the home, the more likely you want to do a sweep. I don't know what the cutoff date would be, but I mean,
No, seventies,
70.
especially in Portland.
So 70's still in Portland.
Yeah, so, and there has been, some occasional new construction areas that, that area didn't get dug out and there's
Find
oil
it in there.
tanks, so you really never know, right? But it's not just the oil tank they're looking for, it's some cesspools.
Mhm.
There was one that had a cesspool under a driveway.
What, cesspool?
Yeah.
Um,
What's a cesspool?
It's just a tank. Isn't it a tank? It just holds-
This is all new, we
It's
didn't have
gross.
that in Montana.
Yeah, we don't have cess, we don't, there are very few cesspools here. I wouldn't worry about that too much.
The oil tank is a big one,
The
though.
oil
That
tank's
can
a big
be
one.
costing a lot of money.
And a lot of times there'll be a telltale sign and like the house is a basement.
There's like a pipe coming out of
There'll
the
be
wall.
like a weird little brass pipe, not brass, but copper pipe.
Really, that means that there's this oil tank?
It could be,
Could be,
could be.
because the
Your inspector will see it.
tank, the oil furnace, and that was in there coming off of that, right?
I had an inspector miss an oil tank.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
so,
well, for my cellars, for me, mine found it.
yeah,
Well, I said, what's that thing coming out of the ground right there?
yeah,
Just
Yeah.
a little pipe.
Mhm.
He said, I don't know, let me see. And he stuck his probe down and hit an oil tank.
Oh.
Buried in the yard.
yeah,
I wouldn't do it on every property, but there'd be, if you're east side of town, like close to the east side of town, for sure.
Yeah, I guess it's a seller perspective too, if you had offers, like one of them said, oil tank sweep, you might not.
you might want to look at that one.
Yeah, it's crazy how.
Well, it also is the area of the house though, because it depends on where it's at, the area of the house.
Yeah.
Somebody may have not put it on there, but if the inspector says, oh,
They
hey,
can
I think
still
you gotta
do
look for that. They have to get permission to do it, but you're in the inspection period.
Right,
So I had a transaction I'm doing right now, this is an interesting story from Washington. And just imagine how this comes across. We had an HVAC guy scheduled to come to the house yesterday morning, and the seller said, no. We have our own HVAC guy. How do you think that, we got buyers. Yeah, they're like, I don't feel good about that at all, why won't you let my guy in? So when you're in an inspection and when you represent a buyer, you ask for repair and the seller says no, that's a red flag. And if you're representing sellers and somebody wants to inspect it, you say no, know that there's gonna be repercussions for that.
Right.
It's like, what do you say no to? So,
And like they know there's something wrong.
Yeah.
That's why they-
Completely. If you are listing a house that's set in that time frame that there could be an oil tank, check the address with DEQ, right? See if it's, ask them first, do you know if there was one when you bought it? Or if they've been there forever, there probably is one. Check DEQ and see if it's been decommissioned yet. Make sure you're checking, everybody
DEQ has a
should write
website.
this down.
Yeah.
Is it portlandmaps.com?
I would, you can also go to DEQ.
Right, but I mean, that's, Portland Maps is a great place to go for
Yeah.
anything.
What is
Yeah.
it?
Portland
Portland
Maps.
Maps.
Portland maps, yeah.
Mhm.
I found
You
some great
can-
information on there. This one plot was like so huge and she was like, the only thing I would want to do is to plant trees out there, like fruit trees and stuff. But she's like, the water getting all the way out there. I went on Portland Maps and it showed me how low the water table was.
Yeah.
She was, I'll just put in a well.
Yeah,
And I was like,
you can find permits, so if there's questions on things about whether or not if there was an update done, whether or not there's permits for them to do it, right? Everything you need is in there.
Yeah, all those fuel tanks go on there under permits too when they added them.
That's right.
That's a big
Yeah, you got-
copy. next to it.
Yeah.
But some places records are not, or Hycens County lost
Right.
a lot of records in flood in 96, and so they still don't have records of everything. So, don't read that as a.
DEQ.
Do you recommend staggering like a septic and home inspection so they're not competing for?
The septic and the home inspection are probably fine, this is the well is the one where you need to know, do you wanna run the water in the house? So you wanna do the well on a septic.
I just had my transaction where they were kind of bickering at each other because they were trying to pump the tank where the home inspector was running the water.
Oh,
test the
yeah,
pipes, and-
Right, you
Yeah.
don't ever do those at the same time, cause they, one needs water and one, they both need water to see what they're doing, so, yeah. let's see, what else do we need to talk about with inspections?
Any questions?
Just don't forget, get it done, ASAP, snap.
Maybe the forms, do we wanna get into that? Is that on our?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah, let's keep going with it.
How many have completed the inspection addendum?
Who's terrified of writing an inspection? That's good, to see
It's
anyone's
hard
terrified.
not, it's hard to be so bullet pointy, but.
Yeah. So, okay, so. I know an agent who, he's a little rough, and he's a very good agent though, and he represents a lot of sellers. And he will eat you people apart on what they write for repair. So like if you say, make sure such and such is in good working order. What does that mean, right? It's an opinion. So limit the things you write to facts as much as you possibly can. And if it's gonna be in good working order, who says it's in good working order? That's important to say, so try not to be vague unless it serves you to be vague. That makes sense? So if it's your advantage to be vague, great. I love specificity. Can't say the word, that's much I like.
There you go.
But be very, very specific. Okay, so per the terms of your agreement, the purchase agreement, you've all agreed to use this form. It's a bullet point, it's a boilerplate term in the inspection contingency. And so whatever you do needs to start with this specific form, okay? And it works a little bit like the buyer's counteroffer and the seller's counteroffer, because there's a corresponding seller's document that can be related to down at the bottom. So you're going to list your repair request in here. And if you need to use an additional page to go on, or if there's another term that you don't want on this page, you would use that there. Who can think of a term that you would not want to put on this? So let's say we're gonna have, there's a roof fall on the septic line, and we want to have that cleared. Or let's say there's a break in the septic line, we want to have that fixed. And there's a few other things that the seller is gonna get a credit for. Do we want the credit on this addendum? Why not?
Cause then it needs to go to the lender.
Right, then it has to go to the lender. The lenders don't want to see repairs anymore than you want the lender to see repairs. So the lender sees repairs and they want to see that the repairs were made. And what if the repair isn't agreed to? So I usually would put my actionable items here that are actual repairs, and then if I'm gonna do a credit, I will do it on a separate page.
Why would you give the seller credit?
No, if you're gonna receive a credit,
Oh,
yeah.
You just- I thought you said-
Oh, sorry, I'm giving a credit.
okay.
I was the seller's agent, I'm always in line, so I apologize. But if there's a credit, the seller credit, we get it, you'd wanna do it on a separate page. One time had an agent, I always play really fair, right, but this one guy wasn't playing fair, and so he got the unfair back. So he had made the mistake of putting a credit on this one for a small credit, and then asking for a roof on another. He flip-flopped it. And he didn't tie the two addendums together. He didn't use for additional details the addendum blank. He just said, seller to credit buyer, $3,500. And then on the other one, he said, we want a new roof, repair, and so we signed this one, which when we agreed to it, ended the contingency period and ignored the other one, rejected the other one, and we
Actively rejected it or just ignored it?
just wrote rejected on it and sent it back. We just wrote rejected on it and sent it back. And because this one removed the repair addendum, the repair contingency, the inspection period is gone. So he didn't get it.
So he did or he didn't tie the two addendums?
He did not tie the two together.
Did he submit both of them to you?
Yeah, but he didn't tie them together.
So he's screwed?
He
Okay.
bought his client roof, which we agreed to before going to contract, that there would be no roof. And so then they asked for it, we're kind of like, no.
Nice try.
He was trouble.
What's that? He was newer. It was one of his first transactions.
He didn't go to his broker.
If you're asking for a monetary contribution though, and you write on here, see, whatever addendum, you don't have to send that other, the lender's not gonna be like, Hey, I see on here there's a.
Right, so you wouldn't, this is where you put the things that you don't want to go under the state. Which is sort of unfun. The other one, you would have no reference backwards to it. So just as long as this one references the other, it's tied. Make sense?
Yeah, so by signing one, you're really signing off on both.
So agreeing to this agrees to the other.
So an actual item one, you would put that there's another item that has a lot.
Remove bold. Yeah, mitigate bold.
How about the timeline?
So.
All
yeah, that's a good
repairs
one.
completed by.
Yeah, so I always try to put a reasonable amount of time on this one. They allow, especially now, where it's so hard to get repairs done. It's hard to get bids, much less getting repair done. And so I always put a few, like 3, 4, 5 days ahead of closing to make sure that it gets done properly and they have time to do it. I don't ask for very many repairs. I always try to get credits because I want my clients to be in control of how that repair is going. As specific as I am, there's so much room for error in it, right? So I'm gonna write an addendum requesting repair, and I'm gonna be as specific as I can. Then the buyer's agent's gonna read it, he's gonna have an idea, he's gonna relay that to the seller, and the seller agent's gonna read it, and the seller's agent's gonna relay that to the seller, and the seller's gonna relay it to the contractor, is gonna telephone, and who knows what the end result of the repair is. And they may not do it in the same fashion that we would have done, or they may find other things that need to be done along the way, but they won't do them because they weren't contractually obligated to do that. So I love credits, it makes it easier for everybody, you know, if sometimes, you know, if something does pop up that would be extra, that could kind of hurt your buyer, you know, like if it's, some of the things that I would want to have repaired done would be like if there is like dry rot around a window or something, that could mean there's also dry rot inside the building, inside the walls that would need to be fixed. You would like to say the same thing for roofs, because like a lot of times there's a sheeting that goes under the roof, you may not be able to see that because it's covered up with insulation or something. And so you won't know if that needs to be replaced. It's really hard to get a whole roof out of somebody when you're representing a buyer, it's really difficult to get an entire roof replaced. It's really difficult. Language that you could use that would be helpful, that both as representing a seller, talking to buyer's agents or talking to your clients, was like, if this roof had half its life left, we wouldn't be talking about the roof, like there would be no you wouldn't be saying, the roof's only got half its life left, I'd like half the money for a new roof. You never had that conversation, it's just at the end of its life where we try to get the whole roof, and so I've always been pretty good at not having, the representing someone not having to pay out the whole money for the roof. And usually my clients are pretty open to the idea that they have to pay just for the roof too.
And then it states on there that the buyer can have the inspector come back out and to inspect certain things, but they
Yes.
will charge. So you need
Yes.
to make sure that
Right.
you let your buyers know that.
And then we enter some gray areas here. So the repair corrective action shall be completed on or before that date we talked about. Seller shall give buyer a written notice of completion of repair actions and provide any receipt for labor and materials and proof of payment in full. This is super important. You want to have these receipts as a buyer's agent. Okay, and then buyer may, with buyer's inspector within, 2 days is what the default thing. Following receipt of such notice, re-inspect the property to confirm that the repairs corrective actions have been completed. So this is where it can get murky, because one person says they've done the repairs, the inspector says, that's not what I meant. But that's not what we agreed to. You see how it can get really fun. The inspector could come back and re-inspect the item. And if you wrote the repair differently than what he thought it was in his head, he may say, oh, this isn't done right. And then who decides what's right? Who figures that part out? So I'm always trying to mitigate these unknown situations as much as I can. I'm always trying to be specific. I'm always trying to avoid issues like that. That's why I love credits, because it's fun.
The hard part is getting the leads.
What's that?
The hard part is getting the leads sometime on this one.
The bids, yeah.
Yeah.
When I represent a seller and when someone asks for a credit, I'm like, this is way better. Like you're absolved from ever having to touch this repair. You're not gonna get a phone call in a month saying you didn't do it right, or the roof's leaking or whatever. You're like, you got a credit, bye. Like, sorry, that's it. It's like, again, you're representing a seller, loss mitigation is everything, right? And
Yeah.
giving a credit's way better than having to be on the hook for the quality of the work.
how do you come up, I guess, with your number for a credit? Just
Yeah.
'cause, I mean, like, when I bought my house, I remember we got bids from multiple people for
Mhm.
just stuff on the inspection, that's not even cosmetic stuff, and they were like, one was 25 grand, one was 15,
Yeah,
and, you know,
right.
they were all over the place.
Right. So my conversation, if I'm representing a buyer,
Yeah.
my conversation with them is, let's probably figure out what the difference is between the two. If we can get multiple bids, it's really hard to get contractors out to get bids, especially right now. So a lot of it could get fall apart, which sucks, but it is what it is. And it's just the nature of the market the way it is right now. But I would ask for the highest amount. I would take the big bid, and show it to, and you can bet the seller's agent probably has one from their low bid that they're gonna use, so the answer could be somewhere. It's great if you can get bids out, and so, again, another reason why you want to get that home inspection done ASAP, because getting a contractor out within 2 weeks is difficult, like if it's a crawl space issue, good luck. I mean, those guys are so busy, they're so busy getting someone out. So. Sooner the better. Okay.
My dad's.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about what other guys. What else do you know about stuff?
I have another.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
This is like a hypothetical one that I
Perfect.
kind of have
Love
to
it.
deal with, if there's something, if you're buying like a condo or a townhouse and there's an HOA,
Mhm.
and, let's say it's like a big, like, I've heard of an HOA, I'm a treasurer, so it's not really a big one. But, you know, maybe 30 condos or so, and you notice that there's dry rot on the side of the condo,
Mhm.
and they do pay monthly fees and whatnot.
Right.
And I know obviously HOAs can take so long, so let's say
Yeah.
you request for that to be done. I'm just curious, like, what will cost, I know
Yeah.
that there's like possible assessments, and it could even be more.
Exactly. So if I'm representing a buyer to purchase a condo or townhome,
Yeah.
and the seller likely, if it's an exterior envelope thing, the roof, even the windows,
Yeah.
siding, crawl space, attic space, because it could be shared, right? Those could be things that are outside of the seller's ability to repair. So we represent a buyer, the best be like, and you just say, hey, listen, we don't have a lot of control over this repair. We're gonna be putting our faith in the HOA to do it. At a minimum, you hope to get a letter from the HOA saying that they will do it. But
But even if they say that they will do it, is your buyer's probably gonna have to pay
your buyer
a
may not,
special assessment or anything?
it depends on what it is, right? It depends on how big of a repair. You hope that in their operating expenses, they have enough money
Yeah,
to do it. And hopefully it's not a recurring issue. It could be, right?
yeah,
Condos and townhomes there's a whole niche industry of inspectors and lawyers that go around and sue on behalf of the HOA for repairs that are really, I mean, it can be kind of a racket. Like I had clients over in Bethany one time, and they were getting ready to sell their condo and got hit with an assessment. It was like over $800 per unit, $800 per unit. But what happens is there's a lawsuit, because $800 a unit per owner is not that much. But you do it over 100, it's $800,000, right? The HOA is like, well, we're not gonna pay for that. We're gonna go sue the builder for it. And now your development's tied up in litigation, and it can be difficult to sell. It can be difficult to qualify for a loan. And so they can make it really difficult for a homeowner to get out from underneath it. So it's oftentimes that the inability to sell your condo to anybody but a cash buyer will plummet the value of your property way more than that $800 piece of trim or the little piece of flashing that get put above the window. So the most important inspection you'll do on a condo or townhome will be on the HOA, not the structure itself. I mean, it's still important, don't get me wrong, but
Say that again?
the financial status of the HOA will be on a townhome or a condo will be the most important inspection that's done.
Yeah.
It's their evaluation.
I don't know anything about that inspection.
Yeah, I never heard of that.
It's not an inspection, it's.
No, it's part of your title.
It's your clients looking at the financial status of it.
When you order the CCNRs,
Reading
the
minutes.
HOA documents, you wanna make sure all of it is in there. You wanna have the CCNRs, you wanna have the financial budget,
Yeah,
the,
insurance.
what's that, the survey thing that they do.
Mhm, yeah,
What's that
there's
called
a,
again? Starts with an R, the
uh,
reserve study.
yeah, reserve study, that's super important.
That's really important.
Reserve study, how
Mhm.
much they hold in reserve for
Mm.
repairs.
Well,
Yeah,
what they're
what they're
forecasting.
anticipating, yeah,
Oh, right.
yeah. All very, very important.
And through the minutes.
How far back do they?
Yeah, in
go?
minutes.
Minutes.
In the minutes, I would try to get 12 months.
Yep.
The issue here in Oregon is like in Arizona, it's very structured. Every townhome, HOA community has the exact same set of forms that they fill out and provide. We don't. Ours is a little bit like the Wild West. And so I'm sure that, I think there are requirements from the state on what a condo association might have, but there's probably, I don't know if there's any bond to check them over. And yeah, right, and so you're really relying upon, I mean, I've seen some scary things in HOAs and usually it's, the building looks bad and then when I represent a client, like when I take them to a condo or something, I'm looking at the first thing I look at is the parking lot, the driveways. Are they freshly painted? Are there potholes everywhere? If not, that's probably a good sign that the HOA is well run, because they got extra money to fill the potholes and paint parking spots. If they don't, then, okay, well, there's one thing I'm worried about. Then you go and you look around, like, nothing's been painted for a while. Okay, let's get out of here. Let's run away from this even as fast as we can, because you're gonna get hit with a special assessment, and those can be nasty.
Is it the buyer's responsibility to look through all of those
The
documents?
seller is responsible to
provide that,
provide it.
Uh-huh,
and your buyer is
And
responsible to look
that could
at
be a
it.
material defect, right? That could be an issue. There's questions on the seller's property disclosure statement that ask about pending litigation or special assessments. But you don't want to lean on having to sue somebody to make your client right. You need to get them out of that property before they buy. That's,
is this a place where buyers should be advised to have someone, a professional look over those documents?
I've heard there is a
Yeah.
service that does that, but I don't know what it is. I
There
don't know.
is, the last one I just fell out of contract because of the HOA, she hired a service to review all the documents.
Yeah, to make sure it's all.
I would love to get that. I would love to get that from you.
But that's definitely, that's not our responsibility.
No.
It's our,
I don't know. I mean,
Why, we still look at them, you wanna review them, title's gonna look at them, the buyers should look at them, the agent should look at them. And if you see something, you should say, hey, you should really take a look at this section, but you don't wanna be completely and totally liable for,
yeah, I would not do it in place of my clients looking at it. Because again, you don't know, like CCNRs, you don't know what their intent use of the property is. What if they,
Right.
what if they really do want to paint their house pink? And I didn't know that you want to paint your house pink, and you can't paint your house pink, like, because CCNR won't let you. So you should take a look at it, because you could be held liable for some of the stuff on there, but encourage your clients, like, look, I don't know, there's no way I can possibly know how you intend to use the property. I would definitely encourage you to look at this. And if you have that, and if you're able to have a resource to say, here's a company I know of that actually reviews the financial status, the financial solvency of the HOA, I suggest you use this company as well. That's a really good idea, because it is,
that's awesome.
and like, you can't avoid all of it. You can't. Some of it is what's like, we've been talking about doing this, but we haven't yet. The HOA may be talking about a special assessment, and it may not appear in the minutes yet. They can also get around it they can get around things by leaning on fire codes to get electrical panels fixed. Like I represented a client one time, we poured through the HOA documents, we read all the meeting minutes, we felt good about buying it, and then the day we closed, I got a phone call from the HOA, hey, when are you gonna replace the electrical panel, the electrical wiring in it? What? Yeah, you have aluminum wiring, it's dangerous to all the units, you have to replace it. We're like, what? And the seller knew it, but they didn't tell us, it didn't appear in the HOA documents, it wasn't, the owner was Zillow, they were gonna go sue some little seller, it looks bad, right? So they ate $6,000 off that deal because they had to replace everything.
Zillow did.
Because they have a whole department that does nothing but read through those documents, and it wasn't anywhere on it, so.
Do you find there's a major difference between condos that you find published straight with those apartment type ones as opposed to?
Sure, yeah, and then there's gonna be, just let's talk about the Pearl and just, there's brand new buildings there, right? There's buildings that are over 100 years old, and there's everything in between, so they're all gonna be a little bit different. Those older buildings will have certain things that come up, siding, windows, like you have a building built in the late 70s. I represent Sellers one time, a building over by the Mac Club on Lair Hill there, and they redid the entire, and all siding on the property, all new windows. They redid heating systems. Each homeowner got hit with like $120,000.
Oh, good lord.
We had one of our buyers purchase a house last fall. They knew about the special assessment was coming. They had talked to the neighbors about it. They'd read all the meeting minutes. It was gonna be a $10,000 assessment, and she's like, okay, I can do that. That seems okay. And then the bids came in, it was $50,000. She owned the house for like 3 months. So,
And then all 2 assessments, next $50,000 bill this year.
yeah, right, these assessments can hurt.
But
Yeah.
I would say read the minutes. Can you ask for more than a year? I guess why I asked, because for my assessment, they've been talking about for years and
Right.
years, so.
You can ask, there's a spot that says, I think it's default
yeah,
12, but you can
yeah.
ask for as many as you want.
Or forums, I found helpful, if they have a Facebook page, you'll get actual residents.
Oh, that's good, because
comments.
there's an HOA addendum, or if you're using the condo purchase agreement,
Yeah.
it's built into the purchase, into the document, but you can add other like, access to homeowners forums, that'd be a great thing. I've never known what to put that box, to check that box for, that'd be a great thing.
It's gonna be native, but you'll get honest,
Yeah.
current opinions.
Right,
You know, filter.
Yeah. okay. I scare you guys? I really meant to, when it comes to townhomes and condos, I mean to scare you, because yeah, the thing is, the price point makes it so that's about what people can buy us sometimes, right? Homes are getting so expensive. Median home price, but in Portland, it's like $500 to $1,000, that's a lot of money, so getting a condo is a lot of people's only option, to get their foot in the door, and you just wanna make sure your clients are going into it with their eyes wide open, they understand the risk involved with it, and that hopefully they're making the best decision that they can. It may not be the right decision, but the best decision they can to get a home, to get property. Taking some, and know what the risks are, there's a risk in there, not asking you how come you didn't tell.
All right, we have 5 minutes to get through the next 2 sections.
Sorry.
That's okay, because we can do this in 5
I can go
minutes, right? So, as Kelly said, 72 hours of signing, you're gonna upload all the documents into Command, right? So that's in your opportunities section. Under this, you're gonna go to Documents. And you're going to go into, under contract, and then each document requires just that form.
Yes,
So if you get the signed contract back, which we always do, in just one big huge PDF, you need to separate it out. And then you just add a file. It's so simple. If it's came to you from an email, it's probably on your, you can save it onto your computer, and then you can just browse your files and you can grab it and stick it in there. There it is. And then the other place that you could do it is if you started your transaction and opened up your DocuSign rooms, then you can grab it from DocuSign, because it'll pop up and show up here. And you can also click on here, hold on. Custom folders. So mostly you're gonna use a manual or DocuSign, and you're gonna grab it from the computer, or
I do have drag and drop.
yeah, drag and drop. That's awesome too. Okay, so the next thing that you want to do, that has to be done within the first 72 hours. The next thing that needs to be done in the first 72 hours is your commission. So you have to come through and you have to create this offer. And to do that, there's going to be nothing here. This is just to open up the commission section, okay? You can use this in multiple ways, but for us, we mainly want to use it to open up the commissions. So you're going to create an offer, and then you've got to come in and you have to accept it. Once you accept it, now you can manage the commission on it, all right? It's just a quick, simple four-step base information on it. But then you come to manage your commission, and you enter in, if anything's missing, it's going to yell at you, and you're going to enter that in. It won't let you submit this without that entered. So you're going to enter in, if you have, make sure that the sales price is correct, it's updated, if there's any negotiations, commission rate is correct, your close date is correct, And then you're gonna go down through and you're gonna add in, if there's another agent on it, you're gonna add the other agent in on it. And if you're going to do any, KW payments, right? So you can come in and you can change, you can add in, you have to put in the E&O, right? It's $40. And, or I think that's automatic.
Sorry.
It's automatic. If you want to donate to KW Cares, that's not the KWPP Cares. If you filled out the form, Heather already has it, so you don't have to worry about doubling it up, and anything else. And then if there's other things, if there's a referral on it that needs to be paid out, like OpCity, here's where you add that, okay? These outside referrals. If you have a referral from an agent inside our office, that's where we add another agent, okay? And that's completely different. So if you ever come across any of those, come to one of us or Heather, and we can show you how to do that one. But OpCity comes in, you add the item, you have to have your form because it's gonna be an outside referral. You are going to need to know the tax ID type, which is probably an EIN, and their tax ID number, and it's gonna be on the documents that they email you, okay? So that's how you enter that one in. Once you've completed all of that, you can come over here and hit submit. Then it goes to Heather. And it can be changed. Before it couldn't be changed, but now it can be changed if there's, you do the inspections, now you have a credit or a reduction in sales price, you can still come in and you can change that. So that's important to have that. I need
So I
to,
have a question. I put my commission and the referral in the document section instead of the authors and commissions.
oh, it has to go in commissions or you'll never get paid.
Okay.
Separate.
Yeah, you can put the documents in there.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's a signed document. Thanks, Alan. But to get this to Heather, so you can get paid, you've got to come in and do this.
Okay.
Everybody, on every transaction you have. And again, most important thing, when you're pending, you have to change your opportunity name to the address. It can be the buyer's last name, but you've got to have the address in there or Heather won't be able to find that you have a transaction coming.
You always leave the address first and then put the last name?
Yeah, it's easier for us to find it.
I paid a third party referral out of escrow. Is that okay or?
Yeah, it's totally
or
fine.
clear?
Yep. Yeah, anything that's got to be paid from Heather, from the office to write a check out has got to get inputted in here as editing your
Does
payment.
she still need backup for that though, to understand why the money coming from escrow is less than?
Yeah, I think it's.
Yes, especially if it's an OpCity.
I added a note in mine from, because I didn't even have a tax ID for the referral and whatnot, so I think the rest of them just added to the little add note button and explain why. It's fine.
Let's try to get another referral form, let's try to get the tax ID number in.
Yeah.
So it's easier for Heather.
Yeah.
The easier you make it for her, the more efficient she can be for you.
Plus knowing how, everything that gets put in here, you guys, goes into a system and then that's where your 1099s come from. You want to make sure it's correct. You don't want to get taxed on money that you actually didn't make, right? So making sure that everything is inputted in correctly is important.
So what if you don't have a tax ID number?
Okay.
Get it.
Ask for it.
Yeah, yeah.
We get-
Is a referral from an
we get
agent?
hassle for it all the
It's from
time.
an agent from Keller Williams, so it should be fine.
So,
Yeah.
no,
Thumbs up.
no.
It's not-
You need a referral form and that referral form needs to be filled out by the office that the referral is coming from or going to. And at the bottom, it should have their tax ID number for the brokerage.
If not, just ask for it.
Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
But
Kelly,
I don't edit those, so.
yeah, so send it back and say, hey, I need this.
Mhm.
Please have your
They should be-
MCA
they
fill
should be
this out.
part of it. It's not like sensitive information that EIN. number.
No,
It's something that a corporation is training on.
So do they have to re-sign the referral?
no, just ask them to fill that out and get it back to you.
I don't think I think we're required by, as a corporation, we're required by law to have EIN numbers for people who do business.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay,
And so they have to, so they'll understand.
and we're past. The last thing is earnest money. Just make sure that that's done in the time frame that you put in the contract, and that the easiest way to do it is to have the buyers drop it off at the proper title company. And if they're not in town or they're not able to do it, have the escrow officer reach out to them to set up a wire transfer.
The
Yeah,
last one, they had an app that she looked.
There you go, or they can do a picture of it.
Picture of the
Yep.
check and that's it.
sure.
Every title company is gonna be different, so always check with the escrow officer and let them know, hey, the buyer can't drop it off. What do you want them to do? And have them reach out to them.
Let's say you're supposed to have it deposited within 3 business days, and it's the 4th business day, and your client's like, oh my God, I didn't do it, I'm gonna go do it right now, what do you tell them? No, hold off, we have to get an addendum signed first, allowing us to deposit it late, because you breached the contract by not having it done in time.
Yep.
And it specifically says in the breach language that that's a term with which your clients can lose their earnest money, so don't help them get it,
Yeah.
don't help them get it. What?
Doesn't it say the contract?
Yeah, it could be terminated, right, and we actually lost the
So
deal.
if your
Litigation.
buyer is, had the seller that your buyer would an offer on and they have a higher offer,
Oh,
It
yeah.
came in like
Guess
right after
what?
it was accepted,
they'll cancel you in a heartbeat because it's that higher offer that came in after you went pending.
and that's a true story, that happened to an agent, a really good agent here, that's happened with them. So, we're all fallible, we all make mistakes, right? So that's why your checklist is so important, because we can all make mistakes, technology is more reliable.
Which requires you to make sure you're time blocking and hitting your task every morning, right? Going through your all of your opportunities and make sure that you are on time with everything that you have. Priority number 1, then follow up with your agent. Any questions? Is this helpful?
Yes.
Do you guys like the forms?
Yes.
Awesome. They'll be up on Slack here later today.
Awesome.
Good job, y'all. Great
Thanks,
questions.
Thank you. You're welcome. Yeah.
Just about escrow real quick.
Yeah.
For both ways, in the proper way. Is it more customary for the seller's agent to
Yeah.
open escrow than buyer's agent?
Typically, because now there's this is a huge fight, especially among title companies. Typically, as a listing agent, the first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna order a trio on that property, right? Before you even go to it, I usually do. And so they're already starting the process. And they might even start the prelim for you at that point, right? So that's why you typically see a listing agent put in who the escrow offices that they want. Does that mean the buyer can't choose? No, the buyer absolutely can choose which title office that they want to have.
It's actually, it's great, it's a little gray, but there is, it's not very gray, but literally the buyer has, because the title insurance benefits the buyer gets to choose who the title insurance company is. Ideally, and most escrow companies, so it's escrow and the title insurance are actually 2 separate things. But usually they have the same.
So if the
Yeah.
seller
So-
has said, we want to use this title company
Mhm.
and escrow officer, but the buyer says, I want to use another one, and the seller has already opened escrow, so then what happens? Then you just
The
switch,
new one will open
You
up a
just
new one.
switch.
Mhm.
Yeah, so in this market, the seller's market, I would not quibble over who the escrow agent is, right? I would really make my offer acceptable as I can, and unless it's somebody I really don't want to work with.
Or if your buyer is an
Is it-
investor and they're constantly buying or a builder, they are gonna request their title officer for sure.
Escrow is a neutral third party, but it's like playing a basketball game, right? And the home court, you have a home court advantage by having a person. I would always try to get my person when I can, but in this market, I'm just writing down the name that's on the listing, because I don't wanna give them, unless I know my offer's so good, that I can dictate that.
Ah, but what if it's your fault that they want?
Yeah, you would not wanna lose a deal over an escrow. That would be foolish.
Right?
Yeah.
They'll come back and they're gonna go, Kelly, you said to use this and we didn't get it because of that.
Like my escrow officer, I've worked with her for years. My phone rings before the other party's phone rings, which is like the advantage, so if there's an issue, she's gonna call me about it first probably, which gives me an advantage. But when I would gladly forego to get the deal.
But by all means, find your favorite escrow officer.
get to know them. You can call on the weekends. Mine I can, weekends, evenings, whenever I need something.
There are some bad stuff, which is
Yeah.
so,
Here's my
and there's some really, really good ones, so.
It's appropriate, so they've got 3 days to get it in, so I want it open.
Again, I said this yesterday, and I don't want to sound snobby, if they don't have a Lake Oswego office, all the best Oswego offices work with us.
All the best ones were
All
where?
the best
Lake
ones.
Oswego,
Bruce Way.
because it's the biggest market, it's like where the high, it's almost the high, always the highest grossing.
Bruce Way is called the Wall Street of Oregon.
It is, yeah, that Little Meadows Road, that's like, it's written up nationally for being
The Wall
a
Street
great,
of
yeah,
Oregon.
so.
Austin, you can stop now. Thank you.